Hello, welcome back to another pen talk. Thank you very much for tuning in and following me in my journey through the wide world of pens. And yes, you see in front of you a bunch of Jinhao 82s. And didn't I say I had enough? And I did. But I got that bug that we all seem to get occasionally. I had to buy some pens. So I went on AliExpress, saw a bunch of interesting Jinhao colors, pressed the buy button, and I ended up with 9 more Jinhao 82s. And I did end up with some duplicates, which will find a new home. I'm certain they'll be very much appreciated. So this has 2 pens I've reviewed before. This yellow one with silver trim, this black one with silver trim, but now I got a black one with gold trim and a yellow one with gold trim. These 3 here have sparkles in them, and here's a similar kind of orangish color that has no sparkle. Here's a great little light blue color here, and of course one of my viewers said I needed to get a clear one, so I got a clear one. And that really kind of decided where I was going to buy these pens from on AliExpress. So not everybody who's selling 82s has a clear model. So I started there. I looked at ones that they had for sale that I thought were interesting. This speckly one here is the one that really caught my eye and prompted me to do a lot more buying. That's just a nice color. And of course, we can Frankenize all of these, put them in various combinations, and that's what's the fun part. So what I thought I would do is show you a little bit more about some of these different colors. And I have extra fine and medium nibs, so let's see how they compare in their writing. A closer look at some more of these 82s, starting with the clear one. And it is certainly clear. You can see the cap liner there to seal up the nib. Nice two-tone nib to go with the gold tone. The top finial actually looks pretty nice. I'm impressed. And the converter appears to be kind of silver tone, not gold tone, but hey, this pen cost a few dollars. And we see the nib. Yeah, this is a medium nib. Obviously, we'll ink this one up and write with it. And there's some nice tipping material on that. I think Jinhao has definitely improved the quality of their nibs over the past couple years, and they started out with a 992. This just looks good. I mean, you don't see any mold seams, marks, anything. It's an extremely good example of a crystal clear resin. Again, just for your edification, how does the gold and silver trim look with the same color pen? And this is one of the solid resin colors. I think it's quite nice. I like it. And here's that interesting kind of translucent blue, but not so translucent that you see the converter inside. Just enough to make it interesting. Gold trim. Another medium nib. And these 2 I think are great because you get to see a slightly different resin but a similar color family. One has sparkles, one does not. But this is still a translucent resin, but not quite as translucent as the one with the sparkles in it. But again, what's nice is you don't see many of the internals. It just gives you a nice depth to the pen. And here's my 2 blue sparkles. I have to admit, originally I liked this one best, but now I kind of like the darker one. I think some people might refer to as a lapis color. They just did a good job. And the sparkles are subtle. They're not over the top. You know, it's just nice. Let's see what nibs we have on these. They're both mediums. We'll find some of those fines and extra fines that I ordered, but that's what these are. And we're going to look at the black ones, a classic black one. Some people prefer black and silver tone, some people prefer black and gold tone, but I prefer both. Again, you can see how nice they've done that engraving at the Jinhao at the cap band. No marks, no seams. I mean, for a few dollars, how could you say no? And if we take off the caps on these two pens, yes, the caps can be on tight. We'll see one has an interesting nib. I replaced the Jinhao nib with a nice blue nib. That's the calligraphy style nib. And there's another medium nib. You can do a lot with these pens. Frankenize them, swap nibs. Tons of number 5 nibs can be used to create the writing experience that you want. So here we have the 582s that we're going to do writing samples with, the Fude and the special calligraphy nib that I swapped in. And these 3 here have extra fine, fine, and medium nibs. And I took them apart like this because I like to completely flush nib and feed, which I've mentioned many times in my video. The other thing I wanted to show you was that the converters are different between the translucent pens, which get the one with the clear rotator knob, and the opaque ones get a black one. That's interesting attention to detail there. The other thing I wanted to show you is I talked about no seams visible or felt on the outside, but if you look at this section, you can see there's a seam on the inside, very slight, very minor, nothing significant. You can see how this metal insert is screwed in, and I'm certain it's also glued in place. And there's that nice O-ring when you tighten down the barrel. So let's take a look at these 3 nibs that we're going to be writing with. Actually show you that tipping material. And these are all labeled extra fine, fine, and medium. And I think Jinhao did a phenomenal job with these number 5 nibs. I'm not doing that good of a job showing them to you, but hopefully you can get an idea of that tipping material that's on these nibs. And let's see how they put down a line. Same feed on the other side, and same nib color. So here's a sample writing of the 3 nibs that are generally available on the Jinhao 82. They're all number 5 nibs. They all write great. These 3 examples are perfect. The extra fine is definitely a fine line, but lays down a decent amount of ink. The fine is a little bit wider, so this is generally like 0.38, this is 0.5, and that pretty much shows that in this writing sample. And the medium is generally 0.7 millimeters, and that is definitely wider than the fine, probably twice as wide as the extra fine, which is exactly what you would expect. Very, very smooth, consistent writers. I'm very impressed with these number 5 nibs, but then I've been impressed since the Jinhao 992 first introduced me to the nib, and I liked it then. I said I would show you the other nibs in this series. Here's the calligraphy nib and the Fude nib, and you can compare them to the other 3 nibs, which are standard available with the 82 when you order the pen. The Fude nib is available on some models from some sellers, so if you're interested in that, I'll put a link to my video reviews of those other two nibs so you can see them right in more detail. But just shows you the great range of nibs that can be used in the Jinhao 82. You can swap in tons of number 5 nibs. They're available from a lot of sources. And there's also a full series of stub nibs up to 2.9 if you'd like to use those. So for those of you that might ask, how does paper influence these nibs? I'll say not very much, because the nibs are so good they perform well on almost any paper. This I wrote without being over the camera, so therefore the writing is slightly better. Again, same ink in all 3 nibs. The extra fine is just phenomenal. I've had some of their number 6 extra fines in the Jinhao 100, and they've also been very, very good nibs, and the number 5 is equally good. The fine nib is also, all of these are excellent, and they reflect, I think, extra fine, fine, and medium. A lot of people have talked about how some other nib makers are not very consistent in their nib designations. I find Jinhao to be very, very consistent and very representative of what you would expect for that nib size. So if you're thinking about any of these nib sizes for your 82s or any of the other Jinhao pens that are the modern style, here's the examples. They all come highly recommended. So if you come to the conclusion of this video, I hope you found it informative, educational, and maybe entertaining. As I got to fix this pen, so they all look pretty nice. I think these are excellent 5 examples of the Jinhao 82 pens. Some of them have different finials and end pieces on them. Some silver, some gold trim, different color styles. They did a phenomenal job. And if you buy a bunch of them, as I've shown in some of my other videos, you can easily swap finials, swap sections, swap the cap tops, whatever you want to do to make a pen that is exactly what you want. They also have sparkly versions of the pen, which again is excellent. What more can I say? As these get out of their perfect combinations, but that's the nature of the beast. Yes, doing videos sometimes can be challenging when you're a person of one, but that's what I do. So I hope this video finds everyone safe, healthy, and happy, enjoying your pens, enjoying everything you do, because that's the fun part. And I certainly spend a lot of effort and time making certain I enjoy everything I do. So thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for following me as I explore these amazing pens that we're all fortunate to be able to acquire at a very reasonable price. Life is good. So we're going to say the end, and we're going to say bye.